Welcome, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast. I'm your host for the show, Dr. Lino Martinez. Oh, yeah. Welcome back, everybody, to A Little Less Fear podcast. Today, I'd like to introduce my guest is Vinnie Potestivo. He is an Emmy Award-winning Media Advisor and Talent Development Executive. He helps with brand discovery, talent discovery, content coaching, unscripted TV development, celebrity talent brands, and has his own podcast called I Have a Podcast. Welcome to A Little Less Fear podcast, Vinnie.
Oh, Maron, that sounds like I'm like a busy guy. I'm just, by the way, the thing I do, I try to make people look great. And I do it through an awesome project that usually is in the back of your mind or on the tip of my tongue. And we find an awesome platform. And I used to do it through reality TV, but podcasting is such a rich medium for talent development and career development and just personal development. Oh my gosh.
I love
Talk about learning how to be a listener.
It's really awesome of how you basically scout people to bring out the best in them. What got you motivated into doing that?
Oh yeah, it's the best defense mechanism in life. Right? Like, where does such a superpower come from other than misery and torture and the sacrifices that I didn't get to make, the decisions that I didn't get to be a part of, but that were made for me as a child. Having a parent who is a consistently recovering alcoholic, being aware that adults make mistakes, that we tell bad stories, that all the best storytellers in the world have editors. So I've learned quite a lot about how storytelling in this world works, and what I love most is about this is what makes me laugh, is how bad we are at storytelling. Inherently, we make ourselves the victims and or the heroes, usually one or the other, and oftentimes we're neither. If it's our journey, it's the people who are in our lives and leave our lives that are often the victims and the heroes. Hopefully, certainly not the victims, but I was telling a horrible story of my version to myself when I was like 19, 20, and when I learned the power of story, I took a step forward. I wanted to be in casting. I took out an ad in a casting magazine. People sent me headshots. I didn't know what to do. So the little techie Vinnie Potestivo turned to Microsoft Excel and created a spreadsheet, a database, and I put 500 actor names in it. And it was that database that really started my casting career. It was that act of responding to an overwhelming amount of people, organizing information, discerning information, making critical decisions, understanding chemistry, and keeping track of it. And that skill turned into something that was attractive to the executives at MTV when they used to have a show a long time ago called Wanna Be a VJ. A VJ, a video jockey, that they used to have these people on air that would introduce music videos called VJs. So long story short, I got to be the guy who one of the people who cast the VJs on MTV, which really were the faces of pop culture in the late 90s and early 2000s.
Oh yeah, I totally remember that.
To me, it was a really important job. My brother and sister were 10 years younger than me. They were in school. They were the ones that were talking, like their friends were the ones talking about these projects that I was working on. I knew if something was working because my brother and my sister were able to tell me. And if it weren't for them, by the way, that's my secret weapon. My secret weapon was having the audience that I was entertaining built into my DNA. Like, if you were born in 84, 85, 81 to 87, I got you, man. Like, I'm gonna track you even like to the mid 90s in cable, in film, in social media. There's just something about that demographic that I connected with. And I got to meet them in their youth. I got to meet youth culture in their youth, in their 20s, while they're watching TV, and we got to throw things at them where they took action. And so I talk a lot about my old MTV history a lot because it's a shared experience. Hopefully you were watching it. I know I was watching it from the sidelines.
Vinnie, I was a massive Madonna fan. So anytime Madonna made an appearance on MTV, I remember this one time, I think it was in 1990. She came out with Justify My Love and the erotica video within 2 years of each other. And I was 10, 12, and my parents didn't allow me to see that stuff. And so I remember sneaking downstairs at midnight to see like the MTV world premiere of Madonna's Dirty Videos, which I loved.
That's so funny. Yeah, it was 92, by the way. And that informed
Yeah.
my complete adolescence.
Yeah.
It's my whole teen. And I remember when Madonna came out with that in 92, she did the MTV sleepover. And I thought
Yes.
that was
Oh
really
my
cool.
God.
It's so weird to think about, like a weird special.
Wasn't that
And
when
I,
she did her bedtime stories album?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly. Oh, that's right. That's exactly what came right after. Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
I remember I used to record that.
Of course. What else do you do after erotica? Of course, it's bedtime stories. And so the
Right.
natural progression.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was sexual, but it was freeing and to say it bluntly, in the late 90s, and straight men loved her too, and that was something I can share with them. And I didn't have a lot of experiences like that where I connected with um people outside of my spectrum, to be really honest, because of the level of bullying
Oh
and
yeah.
just my understanding of like how life works, which is no joke. And I turned into a really bad storyteller, but I'm glad someone shook me up and someone showed me the light and got me through that dark path. And if I can help people see that in them, I believe in it because it was in me. Trust me. If it was in me, it's in you. Trust me. I promise you. If it's in me, it's in you. And I'm really good at spotting it. Or to be honest, some of it is innate. Some of it is God given, man made. Born with it. Some of it can be learned. Some of it is picking up a tool. Some of it, what I love doing is, I have some skincare clients that are giant brands that are dominating QVC and Sephora and Blue Mercury, and you certainly know them. They just didn't know social media. Maybe they felt at one point they missed the gate, or they didn't quite understand posts or reels or tweets or all those words that come along with it. But I got a chance to teach people. I take the phone and I show them how it's a tool. Like, this is this is not just like a silly platform. This is a real communication device that can be extremely divisive for sales, for community, for purpose, if you really know how to pull the strings, and the same way television can be. Otherwise, it's just entertainment. So what I try to do is make sure people don't fall in entertainment category, which is, my goal is to get on TV. My goal is to have a podcast. My goal is to be a reality star. My goal is to have a book. Those are all journeys. None of that is a destination. Those are vehicles.
Exactly.
Those are paths. So, and they get you, they trust me to get you to where you're going if you invest in yourself. And I got to see that. I saw Nick Cannon at MTV pitch Wild 'N Out. The executives tell him no. He go back with his girlfriend at that point, Christina Milian, over Christmas break and record. They went and recorded it because no one could understand what it would look like with two celebrities having comedy teams competing against each other in a comedy club. He put his own money into it after he got the pass. That's how much he believed in it. And then he got the green light. And what? I'm like, what? That's Nick Cannon. You think, certain people just pitch TV shows and you just think certain network executives say, yeah, it's going to happen. And I watched that man work hard for it. I watched Beyonce. By the way, I got to be in Beyonce's audition for MTV's Carmen, a hip opera. I was in, I was the casting associate in the room with it, which was her first feature role ever. And what's cool about that is that project for her, I have no credit or anything. I don't want no credit for the brilliance that is Beyonce, but the process that she learned, the creative process that she learned while filming that movie was character development. And I read actually in GQ her quote this, where she talks about how she created Sasha Fierce, her persona of Beyonce, like the version of Beyonce she steps into when it's time to go on stage, so that she can live up to that expectation, and then also just take it off like a jacket, hang it up and leave it there, leave it behind her when she wants to disconnect.
That was her own story that she created.
Yeah, and she learned how to character development, in that opportunity to act, on an MTV film, Carmen, a hip opera, which no one really ever even knows about, but I was exposed to those types of creative processes.
Yeah.
And then in 2006, the iPhone comes out. A few years later, the Android, and now everyone, my industry went from 1 million to hundreds of millions of creators. So I was so lucky to work at MTV when people watch TV. I was lucky to work at MTV when Jennifer Lopez and Beyonce and Ricky Martin, like when everybody, Jessica Simpson, when everyone was passing through, launching their careers, so lucky to be in that space around all that energy, and worked hard to create, space for storytelling. And that's ultimately what got rid of the music videos on MTV. So if you want to know why everyone knows. Jersey Shore gets a lot of blame for it, but it was Osbournes' Newlyweds Punked, that trifecta of reality that really made a big impact in programming. And then the rest of TV followed, by the way, which was pretty cool.
How have you seen the evolution? Has it been difficult for you, or was it difficult for you transitioning from TV to social media?
Oh, it's like an ex. No, because like that's not the same person, It's not even. She's not even who I never. Good luck for her. She's like a different woman. She's changed. She's got different priorities now, and we don't have a lot in common anymore. And the industry changed. The industry changed so much.
Yeah.
But focusing on the positive side, the growth part of my industry, there are so many more opportunities now than there were before. Like I was lucky to be at the gate of television at MTV. Like if you wanted to be on-air talent, you had to come through the talent development department, whether you were Sharon Osbourne, Ashton Kutcher, Mandy Moore, or I don't even know what spectrum I'm throwing out. The Rob Dyrdek, Nick Cannon, TJ Lab, Road Rules, Real World. They're all sort of like.
Oh my goodness, you just took me way back by saying Road Rules.
Road Rules,
wow.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Love Line. I can go.
Oh, I love
Celebrity Deathmatch. I can go way back.
Oh man, I haven't heard those words in a long time.
I worked at MTV when Rock and Jock music festivals would happen, and it was a Rock and Jock music festival in '99. It was like one of the last ones we did. ESPN had just launched. ESPN2 had just launched, and we were losing a lot of the male viewers to ESPN2. They didn't want to know narrative programming or music videos. They wanted sports programming, not sports adjacent programming. And sports adjacent programming, like people talking about sports, wasn't working anywhere else other than ESPN either. So I ultimately saw a lot of that male audience leave. But it was that experience working on Rock and Jock that I met TJ Lavin, who became the host of the challenge. And I'd known him for like 3 or 4 years before I had to cast the host for that show. But it was one experience that I had with him. He came to New York a couple of years after I initially met him in Vegas, and he came to New York. He comes up to my office. I was so excited to have him in because I just love this guy. He was like an athlete, biker, and I was like I rode my BMX in Staten Island. So like I felt like I vibed with an athlete. And to be, again, honest, and I'll bring up my sexuality, which I usually don't, but it's important to understand that and at this point in my career, I can get fired for my sexuality at MTV. It's a publicly traded company, but there's no laws that protected me the way there are now. So I wasn't boastful about, and not to say that people need to be boastful, but I wasn't public.
Right.
I was discreet. I didn't necessarily avoid it, but I was discreet, and also it wasn't widely accepted, so I wouldn't bring up my personal life anyway. And it wasn't something we really talked about in the hallways. And there were people at MTV who were on air who identified as LGBTQ but didn't want to identify publicly that way. So I was kind of a little bit on a quest to help bring more to the network where I have more visibility for that specific topic, because it felt important.
So interesting that it was so closeted. Even on MTV, considering that like Madonna was their queen and she was openly having her lesbian relationships and having gay men as her dancers, like that's so.
Oh, in a music video, it's okay. In a music video, it's okay. But remember Danny from Real World? He had a boyfriend who was in the army at that point. Don't ask, don't tell. So he had a boyfriend who was in the army who we couldn't even reveal who he was in Real World New Orleans.
Which Real World was this one?
Real World New Orleans.
Oh, I didn't watch that one. No.
Danny and Kelly and
I didn't watch that one.
But TJ comes into my office and he goes, "Vinny, are you gay?" And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "What's up with the rainbow flag?" I go, "Yeah, of course." He's like, "Man," he goes, "I was sweating you. I thought that you were going to take all these girls. I need what did he call me? A wingman like you." And he's like, "I get it. And now it makes so much sense why you always have all these women around you and like they love you and they talk about you. And I was getting threatened by you, but." And we had this like moment where we kind of said everything you shouldn't say, to be honest. Some of it was right, some of it was wrong. It was just two guys in a room throwing out words in a very safe space because we really respected each other. Right or wrong, we were reacting to it. And I swear it was that moment where I said, this is the person who's going to fight for me to have rights. He's going to use being a host on MTV. He's going to use having the public position as the host on the challenge. That's going to help me have kids. That's going to help me marry the man, that I want to marry one day. And he's really going to be an ally for me in a very verbal and vocal way. And I also felt very passionate about that role, specifically being an athlete. So it was a no-brainer for me when it was time to cast that role. And TJ wasn't the production company's first choice, but luckily we worked it out, and he was. And they're 30-something seasons later, he's like the face of physical challenge and emotional challenge.
Wow.
For this like younger demographic, for this 20-something demographic of MTVers, and he's just a true ally. And that when you find friends like that, and you can give them public positions that they get to exude just that very nature of what made him great, which was ally. You're not going to pit us against each other. This is MTV. It easily could have been he said, she said, go fight. You know what I mean? It easily could have been they said, now go duke it out. But TJ really brought a level of a whole different level to
that's awesome.
To the
that's
network.
A beautiful
and he
story.
stayed and it stuck and he took and generation Gen X, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, now so many generations.
I know, right? So
then
after MTV, what happened after that?
I left in 2007. I had worked on a couple of shows that didn't make it to air. I wanted to do sort of another iteration of Newlyweds. So I actually shot Newlyweds, Me and Mr. Jones, it was called, with Khalees and Nas. And we shot 10 episodes, and then that got canceled. That got taken out of the grid for The Hills. And then the Ashley Simpson show went away, and I tried to recast the Ashley Simpson show and tried to do it with Katy Perry. And MTV didn't think that she was a star and that was going to work. And Benji and Joel from Good Charlotte left All Things Rock, and I had to find a new like rock host. And I tried to hire Pete Wentz, and MTV was like, he's not even the lead singer of the band. Like, what's wrong with you? Are you losing it, Vin? And I was like, maybe we just define talent differently. And they were like, well, we want you to work on Tila Tequila. And I'm like, but no offense, but like, didn't you just hear my Mandy Moore, my Beyonce story? I was just really passionate about people who had talent, unique talent that could back it up. And I could back those people up any day of the week. But people who wanted to be seen, I just can't stand that. And so I left, and I went back. I started my company in 98 from my college room, but I went back in 2007 and picked up VPE again. And then I became the company that launched talent departments at networks or production companies. So I would help production companies or networks create their business, the business infrastructure, talent development infrastructure, the SOPs, what the deals look like, what the staffing might look like. And I got to cast thousands, if not hundreds, if not thousands of shows. Housewives of New Jersey. I loved MTV, and then I found the Housewives of New Jersey.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, but I'm like, that's not getting me into heaven. I got to work on my heaven point. I got to clear my karma. You know what I mean?
So how did you start to clear your karma?
Well, I think that technology helped me change that. I think technology opened up the gates to community, and that we no longer had to go through paid gates and people to be able to promote and put out our own content. And if I can help people be mindful of the processes that I know exist in being creative, especially with video or audio, then I think I can make their processes easier. So out of the gate, what does that mean? It means there are awards that you could be winning that you're not winning because you didn't apply. Some of them you pay for, some of them are free. Apply for all the free ones and maybe you'll win. But the only way you'll win is if you apply.
Right.
People want to make money from their podcast, but they don't know how. 2 quick ways to do it. We know what an affiliate link is, right? We hear about affiliate links. I have one. I love, as you know, we met on Podmatch. I love Podmatch. Highly qualified podcasts and highly qualified, if I don't say so myself, podcast guests.
Yes.
And there's a few gems that are in here. I offer VPE.tv/Podmatch as a link for people to go sign up. By the way, if you pay I think it's $50 a month for this service. You get ultimately you can reach out to 8 new people a day. If you're a host, you get paid for interviewing people that you've been matched with. So if you're looking for an alternative revenue source to offset the cost of recording, it's already built into the system. You might get me. I'm trying to meet people exclusively in Podmatch. I think people in Podmatch are smart. I think we're the next top 100, the next top 200. And I'm focusing on podcasts that are not in the top 100 because, to be honest, they're already there. They're already
Right.
like, good for them. That's
True.
not, I didn't get to grow with them. And like I said earlier, when I got to MTV, I didn't get to work with Madonna and Michael Jackson or like some of the really big artists. I worked with the young ones that, Ricky and Jennifer Lopez and Mandy Moore and Jessica, like the people who were brand new that were coming up. So I'm doing the same thing now. I'm looking for my Rickies and my Jennifers and my Mandys, super talented people that I can be surrounded by, that I can create stages for, that I can put shine spotlights on, that I can bring sponsors to and explain the value of our podcast audience. That the couple of hundred downloads I get per episode for years is a much stronger relationship between me and my audience than someone else who might have 1 million TikTok subscribers because they had one lucky video a month ago.
Exactly.
There's, I think, $17 billion on slate for the creator. Here's where I get weird, but this is a real number. $17 billion slated to hit the creator economy this year. 17 billion. 70% of that is going to TikTok, is what been forecasted. So that being said, or if that's not an excuse to get on TikTok, hey, even I am, but I'm doing it my way. Sure. I'm not doing anything weird. I'm not pointing or doing anything awkward that makes me uncomfortable because I know it's going to be that one video that goes crazy. So I'm just going to be really mindful about the videos I make, because then I'm just going to let it be one of those videos. And I believe in abundance and I believe in attraction. So I believe that there's plenty out there. And when it's time for me to connect, and by the way, that being said, I'm also 100% the type of person who has video notes and photos and full-on podcast episodes on my phone that will probably never see the light of day, just because I love documenting and creating. It's a muscle that I have to work. If I turn that off, it starts to get hard to create. And
it's like you open up the vortex and you keep the channel on play.
That's it. Flow, right? Like we're looking for flow. We're looking for and flow for me is trust in the process, and trust that what's coming my way is going to lead to is part of the alchemy that leads to success in whatever my project is. Absolutely. Whatever that person is, whatever that fact is, whatever that is.
What do you find the most challenging in your field when you're scouting or when you're looking for a way to connect? And what do you find the most challenging?
I guess time. Right. Like, so that isn't that like just in general, everything about it, my time, their time, the buyer's time, the time that it takes technology to work, time. And the reason why time is challenging is because of lack of resources, lack of finances, lack of energy, lack of clarity. So those are things in development. Oftentimes I don't have clarity. And when I want to, there are production companies that have clarity. I want to make a show about XYZ, go out and make it. And they're successful doing it that way. I've never been that way. I'm a real empath when it comes to my development.
As far as clarity comes to you?
I really am. I don't like to say that I don't like to come prepared to the meetings, but I'm really prepared emotionally when I come to those meetings. I'm ready to read what the goals are, the rooms are. I know that what you're about to tell me your goals are limited only in the sense of what your experience and exposure has been.
Sure.
I'm the guy that's sitting down with people like this, having this conversation. I sit down with 10 different production companies and I ask them, how do they make money on their videos? All 10 of them will make money very differently. Very few of them will have the same exact strategy. It just goes to show you. And I know what those strategies are, respectfully, because I have multiple conversations, because I'm constantly looking to connect. That's what I like to do. I connect. So I find 2 people And then the thing that binds them together, the podcast, the TV show, the book, the talk tour, the TED Talk, the project, the
Mhm.
website, and the members only area, specific projects. And then in success of that, then we add another project, and we add another project. And I've had like lifelong friends turn clients now that I offer this like weird service of like helping people stand out. And some of them are celebrities, but by the way, it's hard to make celebrities stand out. You think it's easy just because everyone's a celebrity at a certain level. You know what I mean?
Sure, of
So
course.
just being a celebrity, just having a podcast isn't going to make you stand out. But having a
Right.
podcast in the medical field, in the medical context, will make you
Yeah.
stand out. But
Right.
having a podcast in the podcast context doesn't make you stand out. But being medical in the podcast context does. So
Sure.
there are ways to stand out, that I'm really mindful of. And I use this word already, but it's all part of the alchemy of success, is like the wants, the goals, taking inventory of who you are, how you work, what you're capable of, plus what you need to have complemented, who you need to have with you to be successful.
It sounds like you're also really grounded. What helps you stay grounded?
Oh, I appreciate that. Defense mechanism. Can I go back to that one? My
Sure.
pups. It's funny. I work in other people's reality often. So I think I think I have a pretty strong point of view. I know where I stand on many, many topics. I've talked it out in therapy and in development meetings. I'm pretty quick to act. I'm pretty slow to change my mind, but change does happen. So like I acknowledge that. But I don't let the unknown sort of slow me down. I trust my gut. I think I have a lot of trust in my gut. I don't know. I didn't know that I was supposed to in my 20s, but I just did because I didn't know that I maybe wasn't qualified to do what I was doing. I was just so excited to be doing what I was doing that I had no time for, any type of remorse or imposter syndrome to kick in.
Yeah.
But I think that experience, and to be honest, my experience isn't just mine, it's other people's. Like I've been really fortunate to understand the processes, a lot behind why decisions were made and not made. And
I like what you said right now as far as trusting yourself, trusting your intuition, and just having, I guess, in a way, just having fun with it because you love doing it. When I started seeing on social media that people were talking about imposter syndrome, I'm like, what is that imposter syndrome? And when I
yeah,
read about it, I just didn't understand it. I didn't. I'm
yeah,
like, well, because me personally, I just go with my own flow. I go with what feels good and what feels right, and it actually struck me because I couldn't believe like how many people are having a hard time trusting their intuition, their gut, and in turn made me realize how many people are losing who they are
yeah,
as a light being and
yeah,
not being able to live in their full light. Because if you're feeling like you're being an imposter, that means that you don't have a strong sense of who you are. And yeah, it's really important for people to realize that it's okay for you to shine your light. And the more different you are, the more love you have to show. And it's
yeah,
just be that love.
yeah. I think that yeah, it's true. I think that's why I didn't become a, to be honest, and I went to Wagner College my freshman year with a vocal scholarship, hoping to be a psychology major. I think that's why I didn't become a psychologist or a therapist. I felt like I can creatively, strategically communicate to people in entertainment in a way that's safe for me to impact someone's life, to put words in. So sometimes, to be honest, sometimes I put words in people's. Sometimes I say, "Hey, would you ever say this?" Yeah, I would say that. Okay, so then say it on camera. Sometimes part of it is like, or sometimes it's, well, you just told me this really horrible story, but you were laughing the whole time, so I'm confused. Are you over it, or are you really upset? Is he really what you said he is, or is this just like a story? Because I'm not understanding
Yeah.
what you're presenting and what you're telling me. Or I'm trying to show you, So I'm really respectful of that. Also, I was trained. It's weird to say this, but I was trained not to affect someone's reality. It's not my job to change your reality. It's my job to measure your reality, to measure your promise, to measure your debts, to measure your possibilities. That was, I should say, my job in talent development and casting as a network executive or on a show, whatever. And I would come in with what we call story engines. So a story engine is like, so on Kardashians, for example, the story engines are parents and children, children and Kim, children and children, parent and parent. Now there's a story engine, and no matter what happens in those relationships, you're always going to pull a story. There's always something that's impacting these two types of. So as opposed to like what some people would think on Real World, where there's sort of like archetype casting, looking for certain 7 different types of people to sort of put into the room. I think that was like the early stages of ensemble casting. That's how we knew how to hit certain marks and certain story marks. But it evolved. That mechanism evolved, and and made room for a lot more representation of sexuality, of normality, of all types, on that show. Once they stopped trying to pigeonhole people in these archetypes, but really focused on the storytelling mechanisms. So those storytelling mechanisms, sometimes that's like, if you remember Simple Life with Nicole in Paris, the storytelling mechanism was like, we're going to drop them in a new situation that they're uncomfortable with, and they're going to react. That's like a storytelling mechanism. So I live my life that way, man. I'm like, wait, if I'm friends with you, I have a friend. I'm not going to say who, but I have a friend who I love. My best friend, by the way. So if you're listening to this, I'm talking about you. But I find it very hard sometimes because I just know the stories that are going to come from this person. I'm mad because I slept with someone and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but why did you rush in and like, you're doing the same thing. You do the same thing over and over and then you complain about it. So I'm just trying to understand. Do you love to hate this? Do you hate to love this? Just tell me where you fall so I know how to support you. But I don't want to feel bad for you if you're enjoying this, because then you're not going to want me to feel bad for you either. So again, there's that empath, that oversensitive empath kicking in where I'm like, it's telling me it's hot in here, but do I make it cooler, or do you just like it being hot in here? Because again, I'm my goal isn't to change people's reality. Like I really think that's for therapy, and there are real people who are in position, coaches and strategists. There are real people who are in position to change lives. I try to inspire them. I try to like ignite an idea, ignite a conversation, ignite, or have an impact on a thought or an idea, or impact a development concept, or, improve, a creative idea that's going to help you connect with an audience and get this message out. And I was so lucky to get to do that. Are you kidding? Like, that's like a real career.
Totally. So with social media changing so rapidly, where do you see yourself in like the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh yeah, very happily right where I am, the cross section of like tech and media, of tech and entertainment. I think that social media and podcasting are very sort of, so broadcasting is taking a signal and casting it out to a broad amount of networks, right? That's how broadcasting works. Podcasting, we understand, a little tiny pod of audio that goes to someplace and then one person downloads it. It's very narrow casting, actually. So you're broadcasting and narrow casting. I think that social media and podcasting can fit in TV. I think that broadcasting is built to have we've already seen more channels get added, and we already understand that regionally we get different commercials than other people, in the country, or other people in different cities or states. We also know that if I get Verizon, I get hit with certain commercials than Cox or Comcast. So we understand the advertising that's coming to us is different. But the methodology a long time ago was send a signal up to an antenna and beam it down. As you'll remember, maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, they quote unquote cut the signal. So TV doesn't get the analog radio signal anymore. It comes in the form of digital. I think that broadcast is home and could be the decentralized way to promote podcasts and social media on television, to get it in a shared environment. It's going to make it appointment viewing, live at 5, live at 6. That's going to be important to us. And I think you're going to see the development happening in social media too. Right now, for example, on Instagram, there's reels and stories. I bet in the future of Instagram, there's a challenge that says it's 5 o'clock. Everyone get on and do this now. Like a need for urgency and unification of that moment. Because as audience members, I hate to say this, but like we crave community. It's fun seeing your favorite Broadway show 1,000 times. That's sitting in the audience. But what you want to do is see that show win, and the Tony. You want to be in the Tony audience. When you're in the Tony audience, that makes it a community. And I think that television has the opportunity. So I'm going to combine my TV and my broadcast and my podcast in this narrowcast space. I'm going to focus on non-advertising driven content. So a lot of it's going to be business B2B or brand built or personal built or personal creative built. I'm going to continue working and helping people build out their personal audiences on multiple platforms so they understand how to take a Facebook audience and an Instagram audience and create something that actually creates community and not just opportunity for entertainment. So and it's so cool because there's going to be even more technology coming out. I mean, I'm not going to get into the NFT space because if you ask me, I think a couple of toxic bros killed the NFT space for a little bit because they proved that you just can't throw together a group of friends and have heart.
Yeah.
If we the people are going to govern this stuff, you need to have heart. There are a lot of heartless decisions made in that NFT space. But we saw the promise and we know the tech is out there. So once that feels better, once we start giving to our churches. So here's, let's think of like ways systematically that technology might change is like, I'm thinking of like all of like the community groups and local service groups that we, Elks Club and Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, all of these clubs, social clubs that we used to connect with that have just dwindled in memberships that used to send signals to us as neighbors as to how to ask for help, how to receive help. Maybe if we can use some of that tech that way, if offering at church is somehow done through Bitcoin, it feels impersonal, but also there's something beautiful about the size of what that donation could be. So I don't want to start talking about technology and religion. That sounds like I'm teetering on a tough topic here, but but it's there, but that's where it is. And I think that when technology is going to be used to bring us together intrinsically as a community, that helps strengthen the community, not build these weird smaller satellite communities that are based on the intentions of NFTs or businesses.
Right. Oh no,
that's gonna be.
It's less personable that way.
Yeah.
So tell us about your podcast.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. It's called I Have a Podcast. And I sit down with celebrities and creators that have made television and film and technology for years. People I've worked with. And we go back and we sort of like relive some of the decisions that have been made and look at the creative process. I'm talking to actors like Mandy Moore and understanding what it's like, as a 15-year-old, 16-year-old hosting a show on MTV, getting a phone call from Disney to how do you balance it? How do you go to sleep at night?
Yeah, right.
I would be so woke if all that stuff was happening to me. Like not like in just like in a caffeine way. Woke.
Oh yeah, no, I hear you on that. Talk about your cortisol levels being on activate all the time.
And she is the most down to earth. She is like constant ground. She is like magnet. She is like gravity. She is just like, it's a rhythm. It's steadfast. She's always first. She's always on time. I just learned so much from this 15-year-old as a 20-something-year-old.
Wow.
And I love that. The other thing that's fun about podcasting right now, though, can I say, is that while podcasting is relatively new medium because a lot of people are jumping in and it's really sort of exploded. Let's say that podcasting now is like reality TV in 2002. It existed before, but it really got big in like 2002, and then every network did it in 2007. So we're in this. The cool thing about podcasting is most of us were experts in something before we came here. Like podcasting isn't like, I don't know, tech or finance or fashion where where there's a category that's been proven and years and years and years, even the internet, for example, years and years and years of proving how the internet works. Podcasting is this like interesting career field that fractures so many career types, and we're all coming to it as, I mean, some are surgeons, some are liturgists, some are clergists, some are receptionists, some are hosts, some are journalists, some, I'm trying to think of all the S's I can think of, and we're all right. We're all right. We all like, and it works, and we can make a podcast 80 billion different ways,
right?
And it works, and we can have 1-person teams or 10 people teams or 100 people teams, and it works. And I think that's cool. TV isn't built like that. TV on the shows are relatively the same size for that network, depending on the budget per episode of that network. So like your housewife shows are always relatively the same size, and your Osbourne, your scripted shows and your studio shows, you've got the sort of same amount. It's so much more exponential though when you get into the private sector of what's happening in media.
Oh yeah, totally. I'm enjoying it. I love it.
Me too. And you own it. That's the coolest part. Like,
yeah.
Artists 20 years ago, I mean, like, it's weird to say this, but like Prince, Madonna,
Oh, I know.
They had to put music, they had to make, they were like the
Right.
original. They made content that no one asked for, put it out, and then hope everyone liked it.
Mhm.
Gee, does that sound familiar?
Right.
It's like literally most people's social media strategy: make content and see what people say about it.
Mhm.
I think we've learned so much from them. So it's, which is always so fun when we see them trying to master, trying to watch Madonna master Instagram or
Yeah.
Chelsea
Oh wow.
Chelsea
Yeah,
Handler,
I've seen that too.
on Insta, and like, and then on some ways it's beautiful, then you have Cher, for example, on Twitter, who is able to share her dyslexia in a way that you wouldn't otherwise have known she
Yeah, you
struggles
wouldn't
with,
have seen it any other
in
visibly
a
way.
beautiful way. It's like,
Yeah.
and even in her dyslexic way, it's so beautifully Cher, just like what she's saying, where it comes from, and like, for all the ways we can communicate and misinterpret, you know what I mean? When you have that energy, that POV, when you've done the hard talent development work, the content should come easy.
Yeah.
The content should come easy. And when the content's not right, I would ask, don't focus on creating great content. Focus on making this better. It's mindset. It might be muscle memory, but focus on the talent development piece before the production piece. And often you'll see much more engaging, easier to make content, more appreciative. Your audience will be more appreciative. You'll hear it. In the
Yeah,
tone.
totally. Vinny, what's something you want the world to know? What do you think is important to get out there?
Oh, I think we all make mistakes. Some of us are lucky to make them early before everyone sees them. So I've certainly made my mistakes, but people make mistakes every single day. Also, I want people to know that everyone, every single day, is constantly working to be discovered. How about that? Because I'll leave that thought out there. Discovery is the number one issue most of us will face in our lifetime. Discovery in our job, discovery in our personal relationships, financial discovery, personal discovery. This idea of being exposed and then having some type of action that comes from it, especially as there's more and more content, more and more people, more and more jobs, more and more opportunity. And no matter how famous you are, no matter how important you are, no matter how rich you are, no matter how far up politically you are, discovery is still always the number one challenge. It's about exposure and an action. If you have exposure without action, that's entertainment. So if discovery is something that you're struggling with, I want you to be mindful of this equation of exposure times action. It's, you've seen me, now what? Now go to vpe.tv or share. Sharing is the number one highest value act that you can, I think, do in social media sharing. Here's a couple of things you can share. You can share my stories. You can share my posts. You can share the experience of what it was like listening to this podcast. I've shared a couple of resources that I use. VPE.tv/podmatch is one of my favorite places to meet people. So I'm sharing resources. I'm sharing, we're networking. I'm sharing contacts, by the way, here too. So happy to connect with people. And that's sharing for me is without a doubt like the highest level of action that I can ask. In fact, if you have my phone number, I don't want you to call me. I want you to share my phone number and then call me. Share is the most important action. So just think about that. And I'll leave and I'll leave it like this. Even as a guest, as I'm showing up here in your space, after we are done recording, I'm prepared to talk to you to offer you a gift of gratitude as a guest. That's very, I think, built to be generous, by the way. And if it's not, then I'll go back to work and I'll get it there. But I went out and made something specific that was really unique to me that I know will help podcast hosts, especially with their SEO and digitizing what we're doing. You know, I talk about helping people get credits. They don't even know that on IMDb, the same place where you see all your favorite TV and films, you also can have your podcast there. Now, you can't listen to podcasts on IMDb, but you can tell IMDb that your production company created this podcast. You're the executive producer. You can give your graphic designer credit. You can give your audio editor editing credit. You can give those to yourself if you're the person who does those jobs. You earned that credit. You worked hard for that credit. That credit is yours to take. Creatively, if I worked on a project, I would want credit for the pieces that I contribute to. Also, I can add my awards to that. I'm telling you, there's nothing else that's telling Google any part of your podcast team other than what you could be uploading to IMDb right now. And I have a free resource. It's called audiolinked.com. So if you go to audiolinked.com, it's just like it's a one page, just literally step by step on how to get your podcast up on IMDb. But I'm telling you, it'll change your Google search engine. If you type in I have a podcast on Google search right now, my podcast will actually come up because of what we've done on Amazon, IMDb, which is owned by Amazon. So it's a really high value data point, and I push you on that. But again, discovery. I'd like people to know that everyone is constantly working on discovery. That's why celebrities win awards. In fact, some celebrities decline awards because they don't want to be discovered for certain awards. Oh, wow. They don't want certain topics on them. So that's something to think about. Is this where do you are you at where you want to be discovered? Not where you can be discovered, or maybe it's going to happen. But are you standing? Are you doing? Are you working on a project? Do you have the people? Do you have the projects? Are you ready to be discovered the way you want to be discovered? You have control over how you can be discovered now. It used to happen when I would see you on a corner at like an NSYNC concert, and I'd be like, oh my God, you're so cool. You want to come into MTV? I love that part of casting. But we have so much more control over how and when we are discovered based on the action and the exposure that we're putting out there. So I just want to really remind people that. And I'll twist it and I'll say it this way. If you don't know what I'm talking about, to all my single girlfriends out there, like if you're looking for a man, or if you're looking for a woman or someone who is not a party animal, then stop going out at 2:00 in the morning looking for for the wrong person. You know, if you want someone who reads books, join a book club. You know, do you stop looking? In fact, stop looking in the wrong places. You're going to find them. You're going to find the person. You're going to find them. You're going to find the person you're looking for. You're going to find them. Trust me. I promise you. I'll tell you that. You're going to find them. And oftentimes, if they're not looking in the right place, it's not going to be ultimately what you really want. And you have the right and the choices to get to do that. So why not put yourself in a situation where you can be discovered, in a favorable light as well. So. Yeah,
absolutely. So, oh man, so how can our viewers or watchers and our listeners find you?
Oh, I'm Vinnie Potestivo on all social media. I love LinkedIn. So please reach out to me on LinkedIn. Start a conversation with me. I love working with my friends. I do a live event on Thursdays, a live audio event on Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern on LinkedIn, where we usually have guests or an Ask Me Anything. So I'm happy to meet there. Or if you're interested in any of the links that I've shared, the affiliate links, the awards, the influencer marketing platforms, Hop over to vpe.tv. That's my website, and that's where you'll find information.
VPE.tv.
Yeah, 5 letters, vpe.tv.
Oh, okay, great. Excellent. Well, thanks so much for being on A Little Less for Your podcast. Looks like my screen froze, but as long as you can hear me, that's really what matters.
I got you. I
I'm
got you
really
loud
glad
and
that we
clear.
met on Podmatch. This has been an incredible connection. Feel free to reach out to me, viewers, watchers, and listeners. You can find me on, you can actually email me at a little less fear at gmail.com, or you can tune into all of our episodes at www.alittlelessfear.com. Also, just a reminder to hit the subscribe button. Thanks if you haven't subscribed yet. Thank you so much to the new subscribers. Make sure you tell your friends and your family about this incredible podcast. And if you haven't had the chance to pick up a copy of my book, it's on Amazon and Amazon Kindle. It's also called A Little Less Fear, just like this podcast. Thanks so much, Vinnie Potestivo, for being an incredible light, for sharing your knowledge, for sharing your vibrant enthusiasm. And I look forward to keeping in touch with you.
Yeah, Lino. Yeah, this is just the first of many.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, and you have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too.